Mm. And ask yourself one question that we were told to ask ourselves last week from the Way of Mastery, which is, what do you want? What do you really, 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 really want? And remember, you don't have to believe any of the ideas that you hear tonight. You don't have to accept any of the ideas that you hear tonight. Some of the ideas you hear tonight may be hard to believe. Some of the ideas you hear tonight may be quite startling. You are not asked to judge and debate and analyze the ideas at all. But if you use the ideas the ideas will show you that they're true. So be honest with yourself. The only relationship that holds any value at all is your relationship with your creative source, which most people call God. That's the true depth of the ocean. So, what do you want right now? What do you want in your heart? What do you want right now?
There is a smile upon your face. I wonder why
Well, welcome to the Way of Mastery. Who's here for the first time tonight? Okay, welcome. I just shared a few minutes ago, the only guidelines to the class is that you don't have to believe it, you don't have to accept it, you don't have to welcome it. Some of it's going to be hard to believe, maybe some of it's going to be startling, but if you use it, you'll see that it works. That's it. And the page we left off on the Way of Mastery, if you got the book, we're going to be on page 48. And what we do is I read through and elaborate on some of it for a few minutes, and then we open it up for discussion or questions for 5 minutes or so, and then we keep moving. The goal is to really allow ourselves to hear what it's saying and how to use it in our experience. That's my goal. I want to hear something beside what I think and what my judgments are. And I really want to hear what the material is telling me that I can use to make my life 1,000% more peaceful and loving from within myself. So is that pretty much what everybody else wants in their life? More happiness, more joy, more peace, and you are willing to listen to something weird in order to hear a little bit of that? Anybody open to weirdness?
Yeah.
Okay, good. If you're sourpuss and you don't really want to be here and you don't like being here, do us all a favor and make it your last time. Okay. All right. We won't miss you. It'll be okay. You know, some people come to learn, some people come to judge. It just depends on what mind you're in. Because I know sometimes I've gone to things and I've went, okay, that didn't work for me. And so it wasn't something I chose to do again. And so I always let people know you're totally free, my feelings won't be hurt, everything is cool. Everything is cool, because love is freedom. So if you're not willing to free those around you to make their own choices and to do what they want to do, how they want to do it, then you're not really loving them in a way. I'm not talking about little children who don't know about it. I'm talking about adults. because adults have a tendency to want to control other adults. I know you don't. I know that there's nobody in this room that ever has the desire to control anyone, but I was just saying, you know, like they say, just saying. Just saying. And I'm going to start out with the paragraph that starts out by saying, be honest with yourself. You see that on page 48? It says, be honest with yourself. How many times have you felt a desire to be wealthy? And it's not something you're supposed to sit around and talk about or make very public, especially if you're trying to be spiritual. You may have thought, I woke up this morning, I just imagined having so many golden coins that I could buy the entire planet. Then you remember, money is the root of all evil. It's not okay to say you want a lot of money. He says, you tell yourself, I can't think that way. Well, I better get busy and get off my office job that secretly inside I really resent because they don't pay me what my soul is worth. So, how many of you ever done that? Gone to a job that you felt like you really didn't want to go to and you really didn't feel like you were receiving the amount of money you thought you deserved to make? He says, but I pretend like I'm quite fine. Oh, money. No, I'm just fine. I really have enough. No. I'm really quite fine. He says, then you drive home and the Mercedes pulls up alongside you in the way of master. I love it. He said, you drive home and the Mercedes pulls up alongside you and you cannot help but turn and say, God, I wish I could afford one of those. And then you go, you think, God, I can't have that thought. So I'll just drive my old Volkswagen down the road because I'm being a very good spiritual person. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you felt welling up within you the desire to be wealthy? What on earth has caused you to fear that desire? Like I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I was saying, what are the two things that people never bring up in classes? And I've said that before, sex and money. In spiritual classes, I can count the number of times in 35 years of teaching that students ever bring up sex and money. Even though when you get to know any of them, they're talking about sex and money. Even if they're talking about it in terms of special relationships of some sort, in which the special relationship was fixed, or they wish they had more prosperity and more abundance, or I'm in debt, or I wish I could, it's like, but when you're in spiritual classes, why is it that no one ever says, what does the well master have to say about how I can have $50,000 more a year income? Why? Why? Why is it in the spiritual class, no one jumps up and say, I would really like to have more orgasms. Can Jesus help me? Now check out your response. Check out the way you felt. Just from me saying that, I want you to check out your feelings. Check out your people who are rebels, us people who say we want to do it differently, that we want to express ourselves more freely and more radically and more openly and more honestly than all the other people. And notice how we are just as tempted to sometimes feel self-conscious about those very issues as the people that we're tempted to think we are more open-minded than they are. And we're more ready to hear a new way of looking at things, right? This is what he says. What on earth has caused you to fear that desire? What has caused you to tie the hose in a knot? So that you try to block that desire from coming into manifestation. Perhaps, now check this out. Perhaps you were a child, you went to one of your cathedrals, and there was someone in a long robe standing upon a platform, and because everything looked so beautiful, you thought that surely they must have been speaking with authority, since this cathedral was filled with a whole lot of small little minds that were living in their own level of fear, commonly known as the average church congregation. Small little minds that were living at their own level of fear. And if I'm narrow-minded, it's talking about me too, right? Right? And then it says, they said to you, money is the root of all evil. I don't know about you, but I heard that. When I was a child, that's exactly what I heard. That money was the root of all evil. And he says, and you thought, oh, well, that's the truth. You're a little kid. The person with authority is saying money is the root of all evil. You're surrounded by usually very well-dressed people who look really beautiful, and it's a cooled-out place. And they said money is the root of all evil. And then he says, well, you thought, oh, well, that's the truth. Yes, that's the truth. Oh God, I better fear money. I better fear money. Not only that, I need to resent anybody that looks like they have it. Because obviously they must be doing something wrong. Yeah, just, I love how younger people call it now being a hater. Say don't be a hater. You know what I'm saying? The minute you see someone really being successful or having what they want, then all of a sudden I was watching this really spiritual show last night called The Bachelor. And it's so fascinating to watch the competition and the fear, pretty much the way regular people do it. And everybody is trying to get the affection and attention of this one person who they don't really even know, which I thought was very interesting, And they have to go through what the Course says we do to create separation, which is rejection. So someone's got to be the one that, he wants and everybody else is rejected, which means something obviously must be wrong with you, that you got rejected by the person that you don't even know. So I say unto you, you have one authority, and it is never held within the office of any church. You have one authority that's not in any organization or any one individual. Your authority is the voice for God, or the voice for the active creative source, which is what the Way of Mastery identify God as being, the active creative source. He says, your authority is the voice of the active creative source, God that dwells within your heart and within your mind. So God, or the active creative source, is not limited and doesn't require his children or its creations to be limited. So what created me isn't limited, and what created me, it doesn't require that I be limited either. What created you is not limited, and it doesn't require that you be limited either. For if you would receive all that the Creator would give you, you must decide, that's the key word, it says decide to rise up and be the greatest wave that you could actually be. You have to honor your Creator by allowing yourself to be unlimited and the greatest expression of love, the greatest expression of creation that you could ever be. Now, you would say that God is like a wise gardener who's constantly trying to grow beautiful roses. She knows exactly how much moisture to put in the soil. She knows how to make those nutrients rise from the soil through the roots up through the heart of the stem of the flower to give forth radiant color, so that everyone that looks at it is touched by the mystery of its beauty. And the Creator wonders, well, it is interesting. These roses that I have created seem to have a mind of their own. As the elixir I tried to give them rises through the stems, they tie themselves in tiny knots, and only a little bit of the elixir reaches out so that the petals never quite blossom fully. So he's saying we're like the flowers who have a mind of their own, that all the stuff that supports us is trying to get to us, but we tie ourselves in little knots to keep ourselves from experiencing the divine power that is our birthright through the beliefs that we have, that we learned as children, that are not true, that don't make us happy, and we can look around us and it doesn't look like it's making a whole lot of other folk happy either. But there's a very true axiom to that statement: misery loves company. So have you ever had that feeling that you're putting more energy into staying constricted than you are putting energy in allowing your expansion? Now, desire is what links you to the will of God, which is saying desire is creation. The Course in Miracles says to wholly desire is to create. Like if you totally 100% desire something, it is to create it. So it says, therefore, what you desire is of supreme importance. What you desire is of supreme importance. He says, now if you would take the little exercise that we've given you and begin to put it into practice upon awakening in the morning in a very simple and quiet way. And what was that exercise? When I get up in the morning, the first thing I ask myself is, what do I want? I need to set the goal at the beginning of the day, because the goal determines the outcome. And if you have a goal in the beginning of the day, it's easier for you to evaluate what to do all day. So it's easier for you to stay on track if you have something in mind that you're trying to achieve. If I had the goal of coming over here to teach, then it's easy for me to evaluate whether or not I was headed to the church to do the class or not. But if I had no goal, then I could end up anywhere. So the mere fact that I have a goal kind of gives me a compass and a direction to go. So a person without a goal is a person that just is experiencing anything all the time. Those are the people that's always having something happening to them all the time, and then their position is, did I like it, or is it something for me to get upset about? Here's something else that's happened. Did I like it, or is it something else for me to get upset about? Oh, here's something else that's happened to me. Do I like it, or is it something? See, a person without a goal, they're always just reacting to everything all day. Right? So he says in here, if you would do it, you would begin to get back in touch with the innocence and the beauty of the movement of desire. You can delight in it. When you have a sexual thought, a sexual desire, why not just be with it? Why not notice it and notice what it's causing to happen in the body? Have you ever had a sexual desire and then notice what it happened to cause in your body? Oh, you're so spiritual. Y'all so freaking spiritual. It just blows my mind. What? Sexual desire? What are you talking about? Like, never. What do you mean? I had one of those. I read about them. As you slip your 50 Shades of Grey book under your butt so nobody sees that you can read. Okay. If you get too serious about this and you lose your sense of humor, you won't be able to hear everything that's being said. That's why I would invite you to just have a good time. And just let's enjoy it. Nobody's forcing us to do any of it, to hear any of it, so let's just see what it's saying. So it says, why not notice what it causes to happen in the body? How does your breath change? Does the heart beat faster? Be honest with yourself. Isn't it putting a smile on your face? This is in the book. I'm not making this up. Okay? This is in the Way of Mastery book. Okay, I'm not a sex-obsessed teacher. Okay, it's just this is what's in the book. Okay. What if you decided to honestly embrace that effect? What if you decided to honestly embrace that effect? As being perfectly innocent and perfectly beautiful. How might your day change if you did not repress your awareness of sexual desire? You will notice we are not saying you should walk down the street and grab somebody that walks by you. Okay? I'm not talking about you should grab anybody that walks by you. We're talking about simply allowing yourself the living embrace of exactly what energy is moving through your being. I'm going to allow myself to embrace exactly whatever energy is moving through me. I'm going to embrace it. We heard last week, he said, stop judging your desires. And stop judging your desires as bad or good, because in judging them as bad and judging them, he says you block the creative flow of that energy to manifest what it is that you should have and what would be best for you. So, why is this important? He says, if you have decided that there are certain energies that are demonic, if you decided that there are certain energies that are evil or have the power to distract you from your union with God, you have already decided there is actually something beyond your own power. And that dispowers you. So you take the innocent energy and you turn it into a monster that must be feared at all costs. We take innocent energy and then we see it as evil or bad, and then it becomes a monster that must be feared at all costs. That's why you can have somebody win a lottery, and you read many of those stories where they win $50 million, and then you come back 2 years later and they're in worse shape than they were and they say, I wish I never had won the money. Because their belief system didn't change just because they won the money. Their sense that they deserved it and it was okay didn't necessarily change just because they had the money. So their consciousness still managed to use all that money to make themselves separate and make themselves miserable because of what their beliefs about the desire. So, and we've done it in other ways. Even if you haven't won $50 million in a lottery, you may have come across the relationship that you thought was the relationship that was the best relationship you ever had and watched yourself absolutely sabotage it with your fear. or get some opportunity in the world and watch yourself sabotage it with your fear. So I say unto you, the mystical transformation that carries you from feeling yourself to be disempowered, I love that, to be just a little, he calls it a little disempowered, little drop of foam on the edge of the wave, to the sense of freedom and empowered living that flows from the mind of God through you to express only beautiful creations filled with majesty and power and miracles. What you need is willingness. Willingness. What do you mean? Willingness to turn the very energies that move through the mind and the body. And that means, how do you move the energies? By not fearing them. How do you move that energy? Stop fearing it. Stop fearing your desires. Stop fearing your desires. Stop fearing your desires. He says, but instead, look at your desires two ways. Look at your desires with innocence and look at your desires with wonder. So if I had the desire for wealth, I should look at it how? With innocence and wonder. If a sexual desire comes up, how do I look at it? With innocence and wonder. It says, this is the source of the myths that have been told in all cultures. The knight that slays the dragon, or kissing the wild beast on the cheek, and then it becomes a loving companion. Your monsters are what you fear and repress because of the judgments you have learned in the world. And the world is only the denial of the kingdom. In other words, the world is the denial of the truth. The world is the denial of love. And that means that the world is the exact opposite of the truth. Now remember, you don't have to believe this, you don't have to accept this, you don't have to welcome this. Because it's difficult to hear something if you think someone is demanding or requesting that you believe it instantly when you hear it.
When it says the world, does it mean this physical world?
This physical world and everything that's taught in it. The physical world is a symbol, and everything that we have learned in the world is also a symbol. So it's talking about the world we think, yeah, what you read in the paper, what you watch on TV, what we learned in the past based on separation and fear is the opposite of the truth. And then you go, well, how do you know that's true? Because are you looking at a world that is reflecting complete love back to you? Shake your head.
No.
Okay. No, not unless you're in total denial. Okay, you're not looking at a world that's reflecting complete love back to you. Turn on the TV, read the newspaper, talk to your cousin Ed. Okay? Just because you feel happy today does not mean that the whole world is reflecting love back. That's a very myopic, egotistical viewpoint.
So is our goal to clarify our
Hold on,
perception?
let me open up the question at a certain time. If not, we're not gonna get through it. But I'm gonna give you a chance to do that. All right. If you're sitting in one of your cathedrals, and everyone is like the Course in Miracles says, there's 3 tests to see if your perception is correct. Are you completely peaceful? Is anyone that you can think of completely peaceful? And is everyone you know completely peaceful in your perception? He says, until you can say yes to all of those, your mind hasn't been healed yet. And that keeps the ego from ruling in the situation. Because you have to, like I said, you pretty much have to be totally in denial to say, I feel good, everybody I know feels good, and everybody that I even think of feels good. And so, you know what's so cool about that? Because immediately that presents you with an impossible, kind of like an impossible learning task.
Mm-hmm.
You would go, well, how in the world will I ever feel peace then if that's the test? That's why there's a such thing as, ta-da, a higher power. Something beyond us, that's in us, that's greater than us, that's more aware than us, that is us, that's not separate from us. The whole purpose is to get us to the point that to get past our egotistical viewpoint of we're the ones that have to do it all ourselves through our own personal effort without the support of spirit and the universe. We are being presented with situations that we can't do on our own, so that we can finally open ourselves up to another level of consciousness that we otherwise wouldn't open ourselves up to. Because as long as we think we can do it on our own, he says, then we're going to try to do it on our own and then end up not having consistent joy. So it's almost like we have to be presented with premises that our ego can't conceive of. Awesome. I like that. It makes me go, okay, I don't know how to do that. So, oh, you don't know how to do that? Oh, I don't know is a statement of an open mind. Oh, I don't know, then that means I can maybe give you a little info here, because you're saying you don't know. But if you know, then there's no need for the universe to give you any assistance, any aid, or any guidance. So that I know is what keeps you from changing into the kind of experience you'd like to have. The person that says, I don't know how to have a loving relationship, is the person that can be taught how to have a loving relationship. The person that says, I know, but yet they're miserable, what can you do for them? Very little, because they think they know. And the Course says it's not really complicated either. The statement I know, actually, he says, takes the form of them saying, if you changed, I'd be happy. And that's the problem. It's you. I know how to have a perfect relationship. I just haven't found the right woman. I tell you my problem. I'm the perfect mate anybody could possibly have on earth. I just haven't found the right woman. So I'm nice. Right? Aren't y'all nice?
Oh.
Yeah, really nice, loving people, just kind of waiting for the perfect person to just show up, because just recognize how nice you are, right? Okay. Me too. So it really has nothing to do with me. It's you. Right? So that's what the Course is trying to get us to see. It says, it says, which is really great. I love this section. He says, if you're sitting in one of your cathedrals and everyone is saying sexuality is very bad, sexuality will keep you from God, right away you should realize, if everyone here fears sexuality, sexuality must actually be divine. What does the world believe? Well, the truth is just the opposite. Deep. Try it. Try. Do it with yourself. If you have a history of feeling like you're a failure in most things you do and nothing really satisfies you, and you never feel really completely joyful and happy, then spend a week doing everything that's the opposite of the way you normally would do it. And see what happens in your life. It'll freak you out how much better your life will go. I'm attracted to you, I'm going to go the other way. Why? Because I know my track record of my attractions. I'm not attracted to you, so maybe I want to go out with you and talk to you over lunch. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's like maybe the person I'll end up being the absolute most happy and satisfied with, and we end up having an incredible relationship, is the person that I'm not attracted to, but I give myself time enough to establish communication and get to know them, because I know the result of my instant passionate attractions that I can't fight. I got a trail of relationships to give you witnesses about those. I really want to be a musician, but musicians don't make enough money, so I'm going to take a corporate job that I hate. Maybe I need to do the opposite, actually trust in my heart my desire to be a musician and to know that that might be part of my divine creative ray. But I'm not doing it because the world says that's an impractical goal. You should try to be in corporate America. See, the world is the opposite of your heart. It's based on security and fear. Because you all know people who are doing jobs that they hate every single day. You might be one of them. And you're doing it out of a sense of security and not from following your heart, your burning desire, your passion, your intuition. Interesting. And you're innocent. That's cool. So these books challenge people to look at things totally different from the way they normally look at it. So he says, if everyone fears sexuality, it must actually be divine. So allow yourself to think, perhaps I would do well to embrace it, love it, master it, and not fear it. Embrace it, love it, master it, and not fear it. Embrace your desire, Love your desire, master your desire, don't feel your desire. And if somebody might go, oh, what if you had a desire to go rob a bank? You know a desire to rob the bank would be coming out of fear. You're not walking in the bank to rob it with no fear. So you know that's your ego behind that desire. Well, both my desire is to go attack somebody. You know a desire to attack somebody isn't coming out of love. You know, we did that. Like the court said, you know, the second coming of Christ is the return of your common sense. I love that. I love that statement. You know, I have to remember, don't let go of your common sense on the spiritual path. True students have a tendency to let go of their common sense. Like they'll read a statement in the Course of Miracles that says something like, I need do nothing. And then they just do nothing. And then end up getting put out their apartment and lose their job. You know. So obviously that wasn't what I need do nothing mean. Right? So don't give away your, because what that means is you didn't really take the time to study what the book was saying I need do nothing means. It means you made up your definition of what I need do nothing means. So that's what I do with the Course in Miracles in a way of mastery. When it says something, and my mind is all ready to come up with its own definition and to figure it all out and to say what it means, I go, whoa, hold it. Read that again in terms of what it is saying it means. And so when the Course said, I need do nothing means, I go, okay. Find a place within yourself where the activity of your body and your ego ceases to demand your attention. He says, that's what I need do nothing means. It means that I'm going to find this place within me that my normal way of worrying and looking at things from the perspective of my fear and the perspective of my ego, I'm not giving it any energy right now. There's a place within me that I'm just not going to get relevant to what my ego is telling me. That's totally different from what my ego would have told me I need do nothing means. My ego would have told me I need do nothing means physically do nothing. You see what I'm saying? So when you're studying spiritual material, I would encourage you to stop making up your own interpretations of what it's saying. Because if you do that, you're just going to reinforce what you already think and already believe. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? If you come in here tonight and you think the only thing that's true that I say is what you agree with, you leave the room exactly the way you entered it. But it's the stuff you feel resistance to that kind of makes you go, what? You know, that means you're hearing something new and different. So that means you might want to just take a look at that. So really pay attention to the stuff that you hear through me that brings up your opposition. Like if it's like I say something, all of a sudden you're ready to be the devil's advocate with me. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you know you pig. Just be quiet. Because your resistance is saying you're giving all that statement so much power, and something about it threatening your self-concepts and your beliefs about yourself. And maybe that might be just what you need to get past any blocks that you're dealing with right now. So I pay particular attention to what any of this stuff say that I have the greatest resistance to. That's what piques my attention, right? And I was reading in A Course of Love, and it was saying that debating is nothing but the ego. Because it's just trying to make somebody right and somebody wrong, and who's right the most is the winner. So that's all. So that's why I don't debate in my classes. You'll never. I don't care how long you've been coming to my classes. You haven't heard me debate or argue with a soul in here. You will never draw me into that egotistical position, because I'm not here to be right. I'm here to be happy. I'm here to change the way I'm looking at things so that I can be more loving in this space with you. Right? Okay. Because in the end, you know you're in charge of what you accept, and that's all that matters. Like you said, look within. Go with your own authority. The God within you is what I want you to listen to first and foremost. Right? Good. I want you to be clear about that. If there's a choice between what I'm saying and what your heart says, you go with you. Go with you. Now that makes me a lousy cult leader, doesn't it? You know, you mean follow my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own direction, my own, yes. You're free. You're free. Good, great. So he says, allow yourself to think, perhaps I would what? Do well to embrace it, love it, master it, and not fear it. Imagine someone says unto you, money is the root of all evil. And then they put their hand out and say, would you please make a donation to our organization? Wouldn't that be crazy for me to tell you all money is the root of all evil and then say, okay, thank you for a financial appreciation offering?
Better get rid of that money then.
It says, is that not an expression of conflict? And notice I haven't said money is the root of all evil, so I don't have any conflict. Be clear about that in here. You ever heard that go out of my mouth, right? All right. Make sure we're on the same page here. Okay. There is no reason in the world why I shouldn't receive, just like everybody else in this room wants to receive when they share whatever it is that their gift is. That would be the opposite of what this book is saying. That if I had any kind of fear or block or guilt about me receiving money, right?
Yeah.
And it's not charity. It's not like I'm standing up on the sidewalk and saying, hey, do this. I'm not mistaken, I'm teaching. I'm sharing, right? So, now, you know, imagine that you worked all week and then it was Friday and it was payday and your boss just came up to you and said, give me a hug. Will you be okay with that? No check, just a hug. But if you teach spiritual stuff, you're supposed to have that attitude, right? I'm supposed to have that attitude. That's really funny. But I'm sustained by the love of God, and giving and receiving is the same, and I'm grateful to whatever channels that allow themselves to share with me also. But I don't see the channel as my source. You follow what I'm saying? All right, it's not like I don't think I'm going to be taken care of unless you put something in the basket. Because then my faith is not in my creator. My faith is in being liked and who in here I can influence. And that's totally the egotistical way of trying to receive. And I could never be honest with you, and I could never be authentic with you because I would be needing your financial support in order for me to make it. So I would tell her what I was saying to make sure nobody got upset with anything that I was saying. You know, it's hard for a person to be honest with you if they need you. And they think you're the source of their substance. That's why I realized it must have been a trip back in the 50s when the whole setup was the man worked and the woman was primarily a housewife. Boy, what an unequal power dynamic that was. You know, if the man was gone, it looked like the thing that was taking care of you was gone. Woo, that's deep. That's deep. That's deep. See, now we've evolved. What is evolving? Me recognizing I'm responsible for my experience, that I'm not a victim of anybody or anything else, that I'm connected to source, that I'm not alone, that my thoughts are creating my reality, that my desires determine what I manifest. That's evolving. And that I'm one with you and you're one with me, and that there's unity and oneness. Notice I said I'm evolving because I make more money, or I'm evolving because I'm more famous, or I'm evolving because more people like me. I'm evolving if I'm awakening to who I really am and who you really are. Different kind of test of success, you know. And so it's saying here, would you please make a donation to our organization? Isn't that an expression of conflict? Yet such conflict permeates the religions and dogmas of your world, which say, don't desire money, don't desire wealth. By the way, to keep the ministry on this radio station, we really need you to send a donation. What are they trying to teach you? What are they in denial of? Sex and money. Pretty basic things. Are they not? They represent energies that flow from the mind of God. Sex represents an energy that flows from the mind of God. Money notice it says energy, that it's energy, right? And then it says from the mind of God, which would express how? In unlimited joy and unlimited power, and not be willing to settle for limitation of any kind. So a person that's getting in touch with their true power would be a person who would not be willing to settle for any kind of limitation, and they would want to have unlimited joy and unlimited power. So the saddest person in town isn't the person that's most in touch with their God power. The person that's allowing themselves to be limited, either through limiting themselves or allowing someone else to limit them. According to this, they're not tuning into the energies that flow from the mind of God. Now, if you choose to use your own free will to limit yourself, then in a way of speaking, you are really exercising your freedom. But if you're doing it from your choice, you're exercising your freedom. If you choose to do it, you're using your freedom, no matter what it is. Okay, so freedom doesn't look like a certain form. Freedom is actually a state of mind. If I'm in a relationship with you and you want a monogamous relationship with me, and I say, yes, I choose to have a monogamous relationship with you, then I am not limiting myself. Are we clear about that? Because that's what I chose. Yeah. So it doesn't look like a certain form. It's a certain content. All right. Now, tear at me. Now, what was your comment?
Well, actually, you answered it like the next sentence. But I'll go a little further with it because I'm wanting to have more of a feeling experience of that transfer. So we got, I'm just going to use my body as an example of, you know, love thought system and the fear thought system. And they just don't intersect. And so here we are in a world of fear, trying to learn, and correct me if I'm wrong, to see through the eyes of love. We're trying to make this transfer of a thought system from here to here, in which case we would see a different world. So what's an example from your life where you have felt that transfer occur? Or, you know, to me it seems to go back and forth, you know, remember, forget.
Well, it will go back and forth until you make an undivided decision that you're going to give love 100% of the time. You know, that you're going to, which it simply means giving love doesn't mean giving romance. Giving love is not saying give special attention. Giving love doesn't mean I remembered you on Valentine's Day. So the first thing to understand is that the love that this is talking about is not the love that we think love is, which is sentimentality and romanticism in most cases, and specialness. That's really important. So love is unity, it's having a sense of unity and oneness, and knowing that we're all connected and all in relationship to each other. You know, and so so for me, it's simply, where I am right now is I don't even go through a conscious process so much now trying to think about how am I going to give myself love in this give a person love in any situation, because after all these years, I don't think that there's anybody that's not receiving the love of God all the time. And that if I'll just be myself, that's all the love that I can be and show up for anybody. You know what I mean? So I'll always say, Holy Spirit, you decide for me in every situation all day long. I'll say what I prefer and maybe how I prefer something to be, but I always give Spirit the power of attorney in my life. I always say, Spirit, you decide in the end what it would be best for me, because one thing I've learned is I don't know my own best interest. All I used to do was make up fantasies of things that I thought would make me happy, and then try to manipulate my environment and control everybody around me to give me that thing that I thought would make me happy. And then I would have grievances with them when they didn't do it and say they wouldn't support me in some way. So that was the way I would work it. So for me, it's always choosing to see you as responsible, as innocent, as choosing, as spirit, as not your physical body, as connected to source, and that you have the same power guiding you that's guiding me. And then I ask, what is it that you would have me say, Spirit? What is it that you would have me do? So I live in the question more than anything else. That's how I go, which isn't the same. I honor my desires, but I'm also aware enough to know that my desires might not always be for my own best interest too. But that's not the same as calling them bad. See, something cannot be for my own best interest, but that doesn't make it bad. So what we were told here was let go of the judgment of bad and good, and to go, is this helpful or not helpful? Is this helping me move toward my goal of love, or is it not helping me move toward my goal of love and oneness? Not, is this bad or is it good? Because if one person's bad, another person's good. And then the same thing you call good at one time, you call bad at another time. So even we don't know consistently what the idea of bad and good is. We don't even stick to our guns as far as bad and good. So you gotta let go of the bad good. It's what's moving me toward oneness and peace and awakening, and what's moving me away from it would be the way to go. And then dividing everything into love or call for love. That's the other thing, because if your consciousness creates your reality and what you focus on is what you manifest and what you perceive, then you want to focus as much as you can on the idea of love. The Course in Miracles says, teach only love because that's what you are. You know, demonstrate only love because that's what you are. And then where I can't do it, I'll trust that Spirit will do it through me and for me. That's why the Course says stuff like, God is the love in which I forgive you. Maybe I'm not at the point I can forgive you, but God is the love in which I forgive you. See, it's continually trying to get us to get to the point that we're willing to allow things to be done through us, instead of thinking that you're the one that's got to come up with everything and do it on your own. I want to get out of the way. You know, I've been in this stuff 40 years. So if I could reduce everything to one sentence after 40 years is, get out of the way. You know, just learn how to get out of your own way. That would be my advice to anybody that's new to the spiritual path. Is that, you know, you want to get the blocks released to the awareness of love. And that's what this was doing. And it was saying, well, the first thing you need to understand is a lot of stuff that you're acting from is coming from beliefs and teachings that you got as a child that frankly were not true. And you're still acting them out, and it's blocking your happiness. Another thing that's blocking your happiness is to think that there's something wrong with your desires. And so therefore you need to fear them. So it's really, the first part of it is an undoing process. And then you acquire the new perception. But here's the problem with that. We identify with our beliefs. We identify with the things we believe. So when someone says what you believe isn't true, the Course says we respond as if we've been attacked because we agree. Like a person comes and say, "Oh man, the Course in Miracles suck." Then I was, or the way of mastery sucks, and then I go, ugh. Right, but why? Because I believe it. I'm focusing on it. So you really react to people when they say that they don't believe what you believe. If you be honest with yourself, there's a part of you that feels attacked whenever someone disagrees with your belief or says your belief is wrong, because we don't realize how much we think we are what we believe. And the truth is telling us you're not what you believe you are. You're greater than that, which is awesome. You know. Anybody else got a question or a comment? It doesn't have to be a question. It can be a realization you've made.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment, Earl, because earlier you had said about staying in the question and knowing that like you don't know. And I just want to thank you for reaffirming that for me, because lately I've been coming to the radical truth for me to admit that I don't know what love is. That I had an idea of what I thought love was, but now I know that's not love. But I don't know what love is, and so I keep asking the divine to show me what love is, because I don't know what love is. And it's encouraging because, like, you know, the ego likes to be like, oh well, you know, you're not where you need to be, but you know that is where I'm at, and that's exactly where I need to be.
Well, the mere fact that you say your ego says anything lets you know that you should discount it anyway. That the fact that you can say, my ego says blah, 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 well, that means right there. That's not something you should give any kind of value to or invest in. And if you're conscious enough to say your ego would be the part of you that's criticizing you, then you also have gone beyond your ego. And so what's happening right now is you're just in a period of watching your ego fade away. Your ego, when you can point out your ego, you're not caught up in your ego. The person who's really caught up in their ego doesn't even know it's their ego. So the fact that I can say, oh, it's my ego that says I'm not enough. It's my ego that says nobody could love me. It's my ego that says prosperity and abundance is evil. It's my ego that's saying the stuff that fears me. What is my ego? It's the part of myself that bought into the learnings of the world that's based on fear and guilt and separation. So the ego isn't something outside of me. The ego is a belief in my mind that I am identifying with because I was taught this belief from the time I got here. And I built a whole world up around what I was taught. And spiritual awakening is you waking up to the understanding that you've been acting out of false beliefs and concepts that you've been taught from the time you got here, and that you're more than any of the stuff that you've been taught. And then people will think they're over it, right? Until you say something like, how do you feel about having a sexual desire? Or you hear the word orgasm and you freak out, right? Why would you freak out if it wasn't old programming and beliefs that you got as a child? See, so we're still operating from a large amount of unconscious beliefs that we don't know we have. And they call that shadow work in spiritual practice. When you're ready to get to the deeper beliefs that you have that you don't even realize that you have, that's creating the pain that you're going through. And that's the area that people have the greatest resistance in. Is what we call the shadow work. So to do shadow work, people have to usually go to what they call the dark night of the soul. When you just experience such deep pain and failure in your life that you are willing to give up your ideas of what you think is going on. And most people don't get serious about their spiritual path until something happens that's so intense that they say, I give up. Because there's a part of me that if it can be in control, it's going to try to do it down to the last straw. You know what I'm saying? So when you get to those situations that you just say, I give up, that's when all the miracles start to happen. But you got to really mean it. It can't be, I'm just going to say I give up, but I really don't give up. It's got to be, no, you really give up. You know that your way of doing it just doesn't work. And it's not working. So that's great. That you say, I trust a person who tells me that they don't know what love is. You know what I mean? Because now we can learn what it really is together.
Yeah.
And that means we'll be understanding of each other's errors because we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we could get there together. Because you could go, you know what, man, I want to love you, but I might make some mistakes because I don't really know what it is. And I go, hey, man, I want to love you too, man, but I might, still have some old grievances and unconscious stuff. I might run with you every now and then, run down on you, so we can forgive each other because we both trying and we both might make mistakes. Right? But the person who tells me they know what love is, and they're going to love me no matter what I do and no matter what. See, I'm kind of like, oh, now, come on now. Come on. Everybody I've ever given myself pain through talk to me like that. Right? I bet you everybody in here, the most pain that you've ever gone through did not come from a stranger. It was always someone you knew. And probably someone who said they love you. That's what makes special relationships such a trip. Because you tell each other all that stuff at the beginning. Yeah.
So I've been noticing something that I wouldn't think would happen, but I've been asking Spirit to kind of help me form a new, or just like meet people that would help me just grow and I would learn more from and just put me where I need to be. And I've noticed that not necessarily I meet people that I wouldn't normally meet, but I just see them in a new way. Like, I meet the exact type of people that I just would normally meet, but like, I guess I see them better. And it's weird because then I notice that rather than like picking and choosing like people that I think would fit into my script and becoming closer to them, like I'm just better friends with everybody. It's really weird, like people I wouldn't think that I would want to be friends with, I just like get to know them better and I'm like, you're super cool, like, and then I'm just friends with everybody.
It's the byproduct of beginning to recognize you're super cool.
Yeah,
you change your way of seeing things, everybody looks different.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's like putting on some sunglasses, and then everything you look at through the green sunglasses is going to have a green tint to it. It doesn't matter where I look. If I got on green sunglasses, I'm going to see green, right? But if I take them off, then I'm not seeing through that fear green tint. That's what I'm saying. We got on glasses, but glasses are called the ego. It's called our past guilty learnings. And all these books are doing is saying, take off the glasses of the past.
Yeah.
Stop looking through the things you learned in the past that's not working to give you peace.
Well, and
And-
it's cool too. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, just
But
go
it's
ahead.
cool too because I'm asking like for people to just help me learn more about my spirituality and the people that I think I wouldn't want to connect with because I think they just, they'd have no idea or whatever. Like, those people are the people that walk right up to me and start talking about innocence and love and truth and value. And I'm just like, oh, what?
Yeah, the truth is the opposite.
It's so cool.
Right, just like you were saying.
It's amazing.
The opposite. It was the people that were just the opposite.
It really just like kind of freak
Yeah.
you out. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's a trip. It's a trip. Yes.
It's very easy to say change the glasses.
It's easy to say.
It's how do you do it?
That's what I've been talking about in every
Right.
class you've ever come to.
It's a philosophy.
No, it's not. It's not a philosophy. It's an answer to the questions
Yeah.
of how should I live my life in a way that'll make a difference.
Which I agree, but how one like wipe, is that the right word? Wipe the past or wipe
The way
the
that you
bad
change your mind
Yeah.
is by giving yourself new thoughts and repeating them to yourself and using those new interpretations as situations come up. Like for instance, the next time I have a sexual thought, to actually remind myself that thought is innocent and that if I have any guilt around that thought, it's because of what I learned in the past. That takes it from the realm of philosophy to actually telling the truth about that feeling. And also to remember, and it's a great question that you asked, because that's the thing that I noticed when I first started studying. It's the same thing that you're talking about now. Every spiritual book, every personal growth book gives us one thing after another as far as instructions about how to change our mind. All of them do. We've got exercises that we've been reading about over the weeks in here. You go to Course in Miracles, it's got a 365 lessons that it says the purpose of the lesson, to do the lessons, is to undo the way you see now and to acquire the new perception that we're talking about in the class. He did the same thing. Get up in the morning and ask yourself, what is it that I really want today? And then stop judging your desire. Those are instructions. But what happens a lot is that the question will come up, well, what do I actually do to change it? And what that means is the answer wasn't something I thought of.
Yeah.
It was the answer. The answer is different from what I think should be the answer, or it's beyond what I have decided. Plus, and another thing is that the answers that come from spirit are always easier than what we made up to do, and that also is the challenge. Everybody in here is capable of getting up in the morning and says, "What is it?" and telling yourself, "What do I really desire today?" Everyone in here is capable of getting up in the morning and saying, I want another way of looking at everything that's going to happen to me today that could give me more peace. And then the book says, okay, the other way to look at it is to realize you only see in the past, you're totally innocent, you're not alone, spirit is with you, and ask for guidance, and then follow it when you get it. It's like there's not a question we ask that our spiritual path doesn't answer. So what part of us is it that never hears that? It would be the part of us that wants to keep us the way we've always been. And there is a part of us that wants to keep us the way we've always been. And the Course calls that the ego. It's the part of us that we identify with, that we built up over the years, that does not want to relinquish control. So it tries to get us to focus on everything that we've heard that would make us disagree with it or make us forget what we've heard. And the Course calls that the ego. It's our old programming. And here's the most important thing. The most important thing that it keeps saying is we have to let go of this belief of autonomy and self-sufficiency and not being willing to turn to the higher power for assistance within us. We've got to get rid of this idea that being on a higher level of consciousness means you just get a lot more information about how you can handle things better on your own. That is not a spiritual path. That's an intellectual path. That's a psychological path. That's the ego path. The only thing that sets an ego person apart from a spiritual person is an ego person that thinks that they're separate and on their own, and they got to do everything by their own wits and their own intelligence. And a conscious being is one that knows they're never alone in anything, they're connected to everything, and they have divine guidance that they can call on at all times. But I'd have to learn how to reestablish that communication because I have gotten away from it. And that's what these books do. They help you get back in touch with your own inner guide, your own inner source. And it ain't gonna happen without some attention and study. It ain't gonna happen without some personal attention and study. Sorry, it ain't gonna happen if you never study or focus your attention on the new way of thinking and follow some of the instructions. And that's how people get frustrated, and that's why they drop out of classes. Because they think that just putting their bodies in the chair and listening to the person talk is going to change their lives. That's just like me going to a store and getting a recipe book for how to bake a cake and throw it on the counter and say, "Cake, come on." Right? And then you see the cake hasn't been baked, and then you go back to the store and you get another recipe book and you throw it on the counter with the other one. And then the cake doesn't get baked, and you go to another store and you get another recipe book. And that's analogous to going to one class, to another class, to reading another book, to reading another book, to going to another workshop, and another workshop, and another class, and then saying, "Why isn't my life better?" That's the exact same thing. Unless I use some of the instructions that I'm hearing, I'm not going to bake the cake of my life that I love so much. And I also have to be willing to be wrong about what I already believe. I have to be willing to go, you know what? I'm not going to defend my old beliefs because they're not giving me what I want. He says that should be enough to let you know you need to let it go. It's not giving you what you want. I was like, what?
No, we hang
Yeah,
out
if
there.
you see yourself as broke, then everything you believe about money, you need to chunk it because it's not true. If you never have a happy relationship, then all the things you believe about relationships, you need to go do. But see, the ego, it'll quote the truth to you though. And then it make you think you're really doing it differently now. Because you say, oh, but I'm responsible, I'm the one that's creating it. Yeah. But if you really heard that, if you really heard you are the one that's creating it, then you would change it instantly. So when you say stuff like, oh, I'm creating my reality, but I'm still broke. I believe I'm creating my reality, but my boss still don't appreciate me. I believe I create my reality, but I'm still having a hard time with my mama. Then you don't believe you're creating your reality. You just practicing saying it. Because if you really knew that the way you were feeling was coming from your own thoughts, then you would know there's no one external to you that's determining how you feel. So there's no one that has to make you unhappy and no one that has to upset you. If you really knew you were choosing the way you were looking at it. So for me to say stuff like, I know I'm creating my reality, but I'm still miserable. No, you don't know you're creating your reality at all. You've heard it. It's a nice rumor. It's something you might want to try to do someday, and you're working on it. But at the point you recognize the truth, he says it only needs to be recognized. So at the point you really recognize it, then you're seeing things differently. And the minute you truly see things differently, you'll be seeing different things. So if you're not seeing different things, stop saying you're doing this. Or you can do it the other way, which is to don't doubt the healing because the symptoms still continue. So what does that mean? It means that if I know that I'm assuming more responsibility for my life right now and I'm not blaming others the way I used to, and I'm the one that's choosing what I'm experiencing, then even if it looked like things have not changed, then I know they are. Because I have effected the remedy, which is I'm no longer projecting and blaming people. Right? So there's no way I can really change that way and my physical perception of reality not change. So I just need to be patient for a minute and allow the transformation to happen. Because that's the purpose of being in third dimensional reality. Fourth dimensional reality is where you're going to go, what I hear, when you leave this reality. And that means you're going to be in a reality that your thoughts are instantaneously manifested as soon as you think them. Now, we're in third dimensional reality, which seems to give us a time lag between when we think something and when we actually see the result, which is really great. actually, because it gives you time enough to actually prepare yourself to be able to receive what you're asking for. You follow what I'm saying? So I can't prove that about fourth dimensional reality. But what can we do tonight? We can get up in the morning and we can say, what is it that I really want? We can get up and we can say, I'm the one that's responsible for what I'm feeling because I'm the one that's giving it all the meaning. See, the truth is going to always be what you can do now, he says, and what you're capable of doing right now. That's going to be the answer from God. It's going to always be what you can do and what you can do right now. And an answer coming from our ego is going to always be future, future. It's going to be future. And I'm like, well, wow, that's a real simple way to tell. You know, if Spirit just answered my prayer, it's going to be telling me something I can do right now. From where I am right now, with the people I'm around right now, with the financial situation I'm in, the relationship situation, the job I'm in, it's going to meet me where I am. If a person is trapped on top of a house in a flood, they don't say, well, if you can get 3 miles away from there, we're going to come pick you up. In most cases, they're going to try to rescue you from right where you are. And if somebody's going to love you, they're going to love you from where you are. They're not going to be saying, when you do this and you do that and you do this over here, then I'm going to love you. There'd be somebody walking up on you and seeing the beauty in you and seeing the value in you from the very beginning.
Woohoo!
But how do I get a person like that into my life? I need to be that way myself. If I'm all superficial and phony and not really wanting to get in touch with people for who they truly are, then why do I think I'm going to meet an authentic person? If I'm not authentic, I have to be what I want to have. You have to be what you want to have. And then you can't feel guilt about your desire and judge yourself for the desire. And then ask for it the way you want it. If you know you want it a certain way, then don't judge that desire. Because we're doing just what they said don't do. See, very simple. Very simple. Yes, Chris.
So, but isn't the first step is telling yourself these things even though you don't believe it, like I'm responsible for my reality, I create my reality. Isn't that the first step to be able to like change your mind even though you don't believe it at
The first step is hearing the truth without believing it. That's the first step. Is hearing it without believing it. Without there being a necessity to believe it. Absolutely.
But then like also repeating it to yourself even though you don't believe it yet.
Until you start to accept it. And if you want to really speed yourself up, you study, you read, you surround yourself with people who are trying to do the same thing, you remind each other of the truth. That's what the beauty of what we have here is about. It's about saving us time. We save each other time if we all want to support each other in recognizing our innocence and our power, and we're not here to reinforce each other's guilt. You know, because let's face it, you know, a lot of times we give other people's opinions of us more power than we give our own. So me telling you that you're an innocent, beautiful man, and a powerful man, and a powerful being, it will have, in a way, more impact at first than you telling yourself that. We all know that. You wear something that you think is good, somebody else said, boy, that's a beautiful dress, you feel that at a whole nother level. So some people would say that's codependency, but I say, why don't we use that to our advantage too? In other words, until I get to the point that I can see that beauty in myself, I don't mind having people around me telling me I'm beautiful. I'm not going to be around because that's needing somebody to validate me. That's all right. Until you can do it, it's okay to be around somebody that's validating you. That's what a Savior does. I see you beyond where you see yourself. I see something in you you don't see in yourself. That's a beautiful thing. But our ego will go, oh, that's all codependent. But you need somebody to tell you that you're valuable for. You know, now who would say that? The loving voice or the fearful voice? The fearful voice. So even when you hear the person say that, you know that's not coming from spirit. It's so deep. It's so deep. Once you learn the difference between love and fear, you know exactly what to dismiss when you're listening to it, and you know what to accept. And you don't even have to tell the person about it at all. You don't even have to, because you get to the point you don't want to engage that person's ego. You don't even want to hear what an ego-minded person has to say. So if you start the conversation up with them, you're going to have to listen to them. You know what I'm saying? If you start a conversation with someone who is going to attack everything that you believe because you're going to try to convince them of where you're coming from, you're just trying to weaken your own belief. It would be easier to just be quiet and let them move on.
Yeah.
And then join with the people that you know share your purpose. That's what used to be a trip when I saw people become born again Christians. The thing I used to notice that they would do all the time would be they would separate themselves from everybody that wasn't in their new belief system.
Absolutely.
And they would go to church 10 times a week. I don't see truth students do that. We need to take that same attitude about loving ourselves and seeing ourselves different as people are so, Jehovah's Witness, that takes guts to go knocking on people's doors and say, I'm going to talk to you about what you need to be doing. That's a person who is really not caring about what other people think because they feel like they're doing the thing that's right in their heart. I hope to emulate that attitude in my approach toward my own truth. Not in terms of being obnoxious to people, but in terms of the commitment and the dedication to what I'm about. And not wimp out. You know what I mean? Like I said, you heard me say it a million times when you come to my class, I want Bronco level of excitement about God and truth. Do you know how much the cheapest ticket to the Super Bowl is? It's $4,500. The average ticket they're getting is $6,500. And they're selling it out. A 30-second commercial costs $4 million. Don't tell me there's a lack of money. Don't tell me that that it's not out there. It's just somehow or another you cutting yourself off from the income stream. You're not letting it weed through your experience. Why? Because I'm judging it. I'm judging it. There's some part of me that's afraid. So I'm not saying, don't misperceive me and think that I'm saying money means anything. It's just like everything else in the world. It's neutral, it's a symbol, and it'll be whatever you want it to be for you. But it's a difference between choosing not to do something just because that's not something you're choosing to do, and not doing something because you feel guilty and fearful about it. That's two different things. Me choosing not to try to be a millionaire because that's not important to me is different from I better choose not to be a millionaire because something's wrong with that. And you're bad if you let yourself do that. Choosing not to be sexually active because that's just something you're choosing not to do right now is different from you not doing it because you think you're bad and sinful and guilty. So that's what the truth is telling us. Stop judging it because it ties a knot in the holes of your good. So don't do that. All right? All right? All right? Okay? Would you acknowledge yourself for hanging in here tonight? You hear this much Holy Spirit? Come on, give it up to you. Remember, all that we give is given to ourselves. That's right. Our world is going to reflect back to us what we're giving ourselves. And that's why I always say acknowledge yourself, because you'll have a lot of people being willing to acknowledge you as you do it. This is a mirror out here, y'all. It's a mirror out here. It's a big old three-dimensional mirror. So, as a full-time teacher of the Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate your financial expressions of appreciation. Those of you watching online, you can go to my website, earlpurdy.com. It's a couple of rows back. And also make a financial expression of appreciation. Also, if you'd like to receive links to these videos, so you can watch them again online, then make sure you're on my contact list or go to my website, because all my classes are online on video. Because remember, it's repetition that changes your beliefs, that changes your experience. Like Chris and I were just talking about, you've got to listen to it over and over again to affect your consciousness. So that's why I make them available online. And those of you who want a more personal level, I do one-on-one counseling sessions called clarity sessions and I do them through Skype or telephone, or if you're here locally, I have an office right here, we do it. So whatever you're going through, there's another way to look at it. And remember, true peace is what the goal is. That what we really want is total fulfillment. We want to feel love, and we want to know love. So Sunday at 1 o'clock is the Course in Miracles class. So take a breath right now. I'm gonna do a quick review, and then we're gonna head out into the lab. So remind yourself that desire links you to the will of God. Desire is creation. Desire is creation. Desire is creation. Desire is creation. And enthusiasm creates. Enthusiasm creates. If you're not enthusiastic about it, you might want to consider whether it's something that you truly desire. If there is no enthusiasm about what you're asking for, if there is no heartfelt desire for what you're asking for, then it is not a true desire. It is not a true desire. If it gives you no inspiration, it's not a true desire. So when you get up in the morning, say, what do I want? All during the day, go, what do I want? And when you have a desire, you want to let go of any guilt around the desire. Because if you feel guilt, you're going to punish yourself through it. If you feel guilt about it, you're going to punish yourself through it. If you feel guilt about your desire, when you experience it, you're going to punish yourself through it. Guilt is a request for punishment. Guilt is a request for punishment. Guilt is a request for punishment. So feeling guilty about it just guarantees that your ego is going to get you to do it again. But that's not the same as saying we do make errors at this level, but errors are for correction, not for punishment. So don't think you need to feel guilty in order to do what's right. Guilt is a request for punishment. Whenever you have fear, the Course teaches that when you ask for something with fear, it's something that you don't want. So things that you ask for with fear are things that you don't want, because no one really wants something that makes them feel afraid. So beware of things that you're asking for, but you know you feel fear about receiving. And if there is something that you're asking for and you feel fear about receiving, then what's important right now is to work on letting go of your fear. So what's needed right now is willingness. So tell yourself that I'm willing to turn to the very energies that are moving through my mind and my body, and I'm going to look upon them with innocence and wonder. I'm going to look at my desires with innocence and wonder. I'm going to look at my desires with innocence and wonder. So right now, I'd like you to take a minute and be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I truly desire right now? What is it that I want more than anything else? I'll say it another way. What's the most important thing to you right now? What is the most important thing to you right now? What is it that you value the most right now? What is it that you would love to experience in your life right now? And only you can honestly answer that for yourself. But I'm going to remind you that whatever that is, it's not bad if it's coming from love. It's not bad even if it's not coming from love. If it's not coming from love, it's just a misperception. It's just a wrong perception. You're not evil. You're not guilty. You're not sinful. You're not bad. You're awesome. You are awesome. Sweet, juicy, and awesome. Truly awesome. You are awesome. Fantastic, wonderful, and loved. So, mighty companions, may the course be with you. Could you acknowledge you?
And with you.
Could you acknowledge you one more time? Give it up to you, the awesome being. And Keith would like to make an announcement right quick.